Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim for The Real Sports Talk. You can hit me up on Twitter at CashKelly_TRST. You can also go like The Real Sports Talk on Facebook. So I did not make any videos this week. I wanted to make a Sixers and Celtics preview. You guys know I'm a big Sixers fan. Couldn't do that. Couldn't talk about any of the other playoff games this week where the Clippers eliminated the Grizzlies. The Heat beat the Pacers game 1, and Chris Bosh is now going to be out. And I'm still really having trouble even getting through this video because I've had strep throat the whole week. Saturday, honestly, slept till 5 o'clock. I've just been really sick this weekend, and I'm still pretty sick. But this is a video that I wanted to make because it's finally something that David Stern said that everyone actually agrees with. Usually when David Stern says something, everyone's just sitting there shaking their head and thinking, what did we just hear? David Stern yesterday had this point to make, and this comes off the heels of what Zach Randolph said about the Clippers last week and Pacers coach Frank Vogel said about the Miami Heat. Here's what he said. David Stern was quoted as saying, "I think it's time to look at flopping in a more serious way because it's only designed to fool the referee. It's not a legitimate play in my judgment. I recognize that if there's contact, you move a little bit, but some of this is acting. We should give out Oscars rather than the MVP trophies." And I don't know necessarily if that's a shot at LeBron James, who a lot of people think, and he does, who a lot of people say flop. I don't know if that's a shot at him or whether it's just an in general statement, but the point is well taken either way. That being said, David Stern reportedly has tried to correct this problem before, but the people that he went and said it to kind of just said, yeah, we'll look at it, and nothing really ever happened. So, considering nothing ever really happened, I mean, I've been thinking about this for a long time because when you go back and you watch an NBA game in the 90s compared to you watch it now, and I'm talking early 90s, like Jordan era, it's just not the same type of deal now. It's not as exciting because every so often you're getting a foul call. Maybe if they took out the 6 fouls and made it to 5 like every other basketball game, then you wouldn't have that problem because we wouldn't see as many people taking these cheap fouls. But it's just not the same. And part of it, though, is some of the rules that they put in the NBA, like the perimeter defense. You're not allowed to really use your arm at all. It's all legs that you have to use on defense, and your arms have to be out. You can't push up on the guy's body until basically you're inside the paint. So that creates a softer NBA as it is. And then if players realize that the refs are calling it a certain way, then they're going to flop to get certain calls when they need a big basket or really at any point in the game. And quite honestly, I cannot blame these players. It's because the game has gotten softer, and that's how the game is called. And if the players see that, then they're going to take advantage of it. If you can do it, you're probably going to do it. Now, what it really comes down to in a lot of guys' minds is that how you want to win. A lot of people don't view a flop in the second quarter as any big thing, but if you flop late in the fourth quarter on a crucial play and it ends up being a foul, whether it's defensively or offensively, that gives your team a better chance to win the game, then a lot of people view it as you're winning the game flopping. Whether that's actually true, I guess really doesn't matter, but it goes on your own judgment. If someone flops out, what I think should happen, quite honestly, is that if you see a blatant flop, then they need to just not call it. They need to continue to play along and just act like it didn't happen. Because, and I guess you can't necessarily do that if the offensive guy goes into the defensive guy flopping, but for the most part, when you see a flop, it's going to be when the guy's on defense. So I don't see it as big a deal. When the guy offensively flops, then you just don't call anything. You let him sit there on the ground with the ball and try and get the ball out of there without traveling, which they never call in the NBA either. When you're on the ground, you can't just roll around like they do in the NBA, but they don't call that either. We saw it with the Dwayne Wade pass out to LeBron James yesterday. They don't call that. So while I understand David Stern's point, and I'm glad that we're finally on the same page, his style of the NBA is what has created this era of flopping. And I don't understand how he doesn't get that. I'm glad that he wants to correct it, but I mean, you look around the NBA, it's not just these no-name guys like Reggie Evans and Jerron Collins and, you know, some of those other Andres Nocioni type guys flopping. It's some of the stars. And there's even some of the medium guys like Anderson Varejao, Derek Fisher, Manu Ginobili. And then you get some of the stars, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade. They all flop quite a bit. And as much as I'd like to act like it's such a bad thing, and it does bother me when I'm watching a guy like LeBron James or Chris Paul when they have so much talent, and even Blake Griffin, because they don't even need to flop. Especially Blake Griffin and LeBron James, because they're so huge, they can just take it to the hoop. Flopping is it's unnecessary. It takes away from how good they can be, but I do understand why they do it. But for them to flop, it just doesn't make sense. It takes away from my enjoyment of watching the game. So I hope that's something this offseason, that is something that the NBA looks at, tries to correct, or at least make some minimal changes, and we will ultimately see what happens. I'm going to try and feel better. Chris Bosh is also out. I might be able to make a video about that later if I still have my voice at that point. So I'll see you guys later.